Not that it has anything to do with the real stuff you're talking about.
Oh, good.
He had emailed me, but I didn't see it until just like 5 minutes ago. And then frankly, calling here, it's very called me and said, "Will you call me to remind me?" I never remember, Oh, wow. Let's just check the password. Oh, the password here, lady 1919, didn't take it. The account number is not really almost. Here's what it's, yeah, the lady, capital B, capital lady, getting my capital L, you have one space, your face is not.
Oh, Paul, hi, Paul. Is he calling in? Huh? I have no idea. What is this? And why is it not plugged in? Seems like it should be plugged in. Oh, maybe it or fell out. I got it. Yeah. About now. We gotta turn it. About now. So I muted. Okay. It's this. I have this, that one. Oops. Oh. I had the same thing with my ego. Hi, Peter. Hi. How are you doing? Yeah. I'm so happy to see you. Oh, Kathy, did you see my email? Yes. You know what the. Oh, I. In the conservation. The forum, it is bounced back. So I sent you the whole thing. Right, right. Now, why you can post it, I couldn't. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I haven't changed the password or anything. Looks like he was. Okay.
How is your tweet?
Oh, we
how
got
is your tweet
Rita as in
running? I'm sorry. Sorry, could you say again?
so Paul is called in.
Well,
and-
well, actually, let's do roll call first and then we'll do. Then we need to do a verbal roll
Yeah,
call.
Catherine McGill here.
Judith Murphy. Marianne Thunder. Teresa Coleman. And guests.
Rita Combs and Paul is calling in, but I don't see him.
I am here.
Outs- Outstanding. Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, so we can get started. And the first is, do we have any public comments? Comments from the public?
My hand is up.
Oh, sorry, Rita. I didn't see you. Go ahead.
That's okay. Thank you for taking my comment. All that I ask for, if everyone can move their microphones closer to their mouths, that would make it much easier, especially since you're recording it for people that want to look at it later. And it, you know, you all have, you're all brilliant people and just want to hear you, what you have to say, since I can't physically get down there. Thank you.
Good. Is this better?
Yes, much better. Thank you.
Okay, good. Yeah, we're still trying to figure out the sound system here.
Well, at least it's working tonight. So
Yes,
grateful for small things.
yes. Okay, unless there's any other comments from the public, we can go ahead and approve the minutes from February 28th.
I have a change.
Okay. good.
So, at point 4, old business F, where it says wildlife corridors for safety element, and Plunder has already included wildlife corridors in the safety element via EPC. It's not included in the safety element, it's included in the proposal that was submitted by the EPC to the town. And if we could just reflect that. We just need to change the wording slightly.
Does anyone else have any comments on the minutes?
I like them very much. I like this expanded version. I hope
Yes.
it's not too hard on Teresa. But if 3 months from now I look back to see what actually happened, I can figure it out from this. And I greatly appreciate that.
I aim to please.
It's great, thank you.
So I move that we accept them with Marion's correction.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and Paul, you have to abstain since you're not here.
I got that.
Okay,
Okay, all right, well, there has not been a lot of permits going on. I just wanted to mention the one on,
we jumped over oral communication.
No, we didn't. We did
started
it.
with that.
Did pub-
Oh, you just asked for the public. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that because I have oral communication.
oh, okay, all right, go for it.
What I wanted to bring up, you might or might not have seen it. It was in a PV forum email. There is an ordinance in Woodside that talks about having an ordinance amending portions of the zoning code related to natural state, requiring that when a property is developed, a certain percentage of a hillside lot to be left undisturbed to help maintain natural habitat and rural character. And I just wanted to bring this up and maybe we can put it on an agenda. Maybe we want to do something similar. And this is for lots that are bigger than 1 acre, obviously. So
So this is,
So I'm just bringing this
it's
to
an
your attention.
ordinance that, yeah, yeah.
That's an ordinance in Woodside. We don't have anything like that. But it sounds something that might be at least worthwhile to be discussed for Portola Valley by the Conservation Committee. So that would be a huge, we can't do anything today, obviously.
Correct, yeah, yeah.
But it might be something to put on the agenda.
I think that would be a very good idea. You know,
Okay, okay.
they're rewriting the general plan, and something like this that we lack would be a terrific addition to the general plan and to, or, it would need to be an ordinance, but start with the general plan.
Okay, the other, actually, the other oral communication that has come to my attention is, we're asked whether, about the, whether we could help lend a voice pushing Stanford to deal with the eucalyptus trees that are at the corner of Alpine Road and the one that crushed the car and also crushed, apparently, the first responders that were there also had some damage while they were there. Yeah. So I'm not sure what we can do exactly. You know, I'm not, I suppose we could write us a letter. I'm not sure exactly what the best course of action would be, but maybe Nona has some ideas.
I probably have to recuse myself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I would
I don't
say,
think we, yeah,
I
sorry.
would say this doesn't strike me as a conservation issue. This is a safety issue.
okay, yeah,
So
Yeah.
safety would be, for example, EPC.
right.
You could put it into the fire, then it would be wildfire, but it's not a conservation issue.
Yeah, I tend to agree as well.
I agree with that.
Okay.
It's also strikes me that the people who are taking care of it are well aware and are moving, you know, being moved to take care of it, and that a huge letter writing campaign is not going to change what they do at all. It's not like a political issue where you're trying to sway their
Correct.
opinion on it, in
Right.
which case it would be
Right.
very important for us to weigh in, but it's not.
Yeah, yeah. I think, yeah, so. I don't have anything to say about the permit on, the tree permit on Kiowa at this point. We approved the removal of several trees, and I guess it sounds like they've gone ahead and they're doing it. So we'll just let that go for now.
The one thing I would like to bring up, I haven't seen the wording, and I thought last month we said that when somebody puts out a like a tree permit to the town, that the whole committee sees the wording. I didn't
Okay,
see
so
it.
yeah, I slipped, I was anxious to get it into them as fast as possible. So that,
I mean, you can copy everybody.
yeah,
That's not a
yeah.
Brown Act violation.
okay, good. I'll make sure that I do that.
Thank you.
And isn't it usually on the treatment where you just say yes? Or no?
It's, the trees have recently been written, it's not a yes. No. There are
Yeah.
caveats and usually it's more complicated.
Because this is true of site visits too. We tried to establish pattern where every site visit, when it was submitted, got CC'd to the committee because people were interested in what had been said and how it was said, just so that when it's your turn to do the site, you know, you're sort of informed with what went on
Yeah,
before.
yeah.
Because maybe it was down the street and you're curious.
So, yeah, I have erred on the side of not ordering people's email help like that, but I will go on the other way. I can do that.
We had just a distribution list for the committee. I suppose if there's anybody who doesn't want to get them, they could opt out. You could sort of have a copy list, you know.
Or we can delete it, keep it simple, yeah. But it's a general good idea that what a subcommittee decides and sends to the town, that every member knows that as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
I have also been trying to keep up a folder on Google. That has them, but it, I mean, it's not meant to be a permanent repository for everything. It's just meant for me to put things so that if people ask, I can find it again. So
Yeah, it's also not, it's, that would then assume that I have to think, hey, Catherine, is there something there? That's not the
yeah,
idea.
yeah, I agree with you 100%. Okay, good, good. Okay.
And many years ago, maybe even before Judy was the town, whoever was in charge, would approach me and say, there's a tree, can you look at it? And I would go out there and make a decision.
Yeah.
Write a note, and then send it directly to the person in town, as well as a copy
Right,
to
that's
all
what
the
it is.
committee members.
Leslie
Then-
Lambert.
then we change to go via the chair, with you and.
Okay. All right. Good process, that was good.
While we're on the subject of trees, I'll just mention in case you all haven't noticed yet, that the tree at the end of Brookside was taken out.
Yep.
Ah, okay.
Yep.
I saw that this evening.
Yeah.
So that was the one where we were asked to comment on it, and we said there was no sort of conservation reason to take it out, but we deferred to Vice President.
Okay. On to oversight of town-owned properties. So I think we can start with Frog Pond, because we actually have a budget thing that we should go through, which is one of the appendices.
Yeah, we actually have, once everything's completed, 3 parts. So I think what we have in front of us is the budget proposal that requires the town to provide the funding or give us the estimate. And then separately, not yet circulated in the subcommittee, we agreed on the action plan that we will do, a plan to do, which is not budget related. And then I'm almost done now with our subcommittee official feedback to the MIG ecological plan, which we will then share and discuss probably at the next meeting. So yeah, I mean, there any questions on the budget request, or do we just want to go through it one by one? To answer questions.
So this is stuff that we pulled out of the MIG plan that we're gonna ask Public Works to.
No, that is more or less a continuation of the last 2 years plan that Howard approved funding for, provided funding. So we had 1 or 2 iterations with the town on that. And then depending on how much funds he has, we agreed on a 2-year plan for proving we agreed like for the twice-a-year mowing last year, because I think there were more funds available. So this is something where we would now, if we all agree on it, get feedback from Howard, let the town if we have the funding for it.
Can you ask a question? So this is quite a big number. And
No,
it's,
you're looking
oh, what am I looking?
This one.
Oh, I'm sorry. What am I looking at?
Appendix, here, look at this one. This is this is from our agenda today.
So Yogi, sorry,
Yep.
when I was reading this, my understanding was that all the first bullets, all the way down to MIG, where it says MIG, number 1, 2, 3, 4, are things that we want done in the next year, and that Howard has to estimate.
Yeah.
Correct.
And it's.
And then from MIG down are things that we requested last year and they were approved. So they're in this year's budget.
Yeah, and I have to find out from Howard, because he always provided me with an update on how much money is still left in the MIT work order, because the town is using MIT also for other things. So that's something where Howard would come back and said, let's say I have only $2,000 left, so I have to have another $1,500, so we have $5,000 left for your account.
He's usually pretty picky, but I know he won't let us take some of the town center money and send it at Springdown or vice versa. So usually, no, I understand, but if within MIG, there's Frog Pond MIG, and then there's other stuff MIG, then they shouldn't be taking, other stuff MIG shouldn't be taking away from Frog Pond MIG money.
Yeah. So I mean, I like to have the $3,600 $3,600, which would be a continuation of last year's MIG budget, where we had agreed on a 50-50 split between 22 and 23, based on our subcommittee discussion when writing the summary. Is we need to have at least the subcommittee actually has got one iteration of MIG. And then most likely Howard will have one in order to finalize the report and take the work there.
And that's that they continue writing and do it. So that, so be all those additional charges. Okay.
Which are in line with what we had agreed last year.
But I guess my point is, if it was approved for us last year, it's sitting in a pot. It doesn't need to go in next year's budget.
can't.
It can't,
No,
it's gone.
no, no.
It's gone.
but sometimes they still save it. but-
Actually, I have a question. Now, I remember vividly with Springdown, there was Howard did not allow us to put any Springdown money into the conservation budget. Everything was in the town budget. And this is a huge number compared to how are we sure that we are allowed to do that? And why would that be different? Why could we have so much money in our budget for the Frog Pond when it was clearly out of the question for Springdown?
No, I think that it says to do, and may not everybody has seen it because it's still a draft. So this is a real 20-page study they did, based on the importance of the Frog Pond overall. And that's how Howard had set it up, that it was approved.
But it's not in,
It's
you're right.
not in
it's
our
not in
budget.
our
I do
budget.
not believe
No,
that.
but we're asked,
So you're doing right. What's wrong is she's once again looking at the whole committee's page, and it's listed here, proposed for our
Yeah,
budget
this is
for
not gonna
23,
work.
24, and that's not,
Okay,
that's
that's all
not
I
right.
wanted to know, because,
Yeah.
that would be, that's a lot of money to make an
Right.
error. Okay.
yeah, so that was not supposed to be in our
No, it's
budget.
not supposed to be in the budget. Yeah. Okay.
So can I just clarify then what you said? I think what I captured for the notes was you said that you're working on the budget for Howard. That's one item, but you're also working on the action plan, which will be reviewed by the Conservation Committee, correct? Yeah. Okay.
Right, and that action plan isn't financial. This is the part that's financial, and the other part is not financial.
So this says action plan on it, but this isn't the action plan. This is the
So
budget.
what-
Is that
Yep.
what we're saying?
Yep.
So nothing on the attachment that was included with the agenda is actually the action plan. Okay.
This is the money part of the action plan.
So this is the budget. Okay.
And as a side note, I'm working with the field, and I hope to have a meeting on April 18th. Separate agenda that we did. So that's good progress. Definitely with Adam Lynn, which is, I think, the supervisor, so facility manager, and then there may be one or two others. Because I had sent them quite a list of things. I mean, one is the tour the new facility, watering the frog pond, review the landscape plans, native plant list, trees, etc. Review perimeter fencing plans, lighting plans, possibility of installing a plaque about the frog pond on their building site, then some other. Yep, so that's good progress. That's it.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Springdown. Go Native has worked at Springdown 2 days so far this year. And they've done hand weeding all those days because the weeds hadn't really grown up high enough to be weed whacked down. And they come again next Monday, Tuesday. So I'll go out and look again Friday, but when I looked just the other day, there's still only a few areas where really the grassy weeds are high enough to justify mowing. So what's happened is we've been very successful with getting the oak grasses and things down through the years, but now they've been replaced by all this low growing stuff that you can't get rid of by weed whacking. And it's totally not economically feasible to go through there and hand weed all those things out. So I had them focused, the subcommittee, Paul and Nona and I talked, and we had them focusing on the thistles and a couple of the big things that are big and ugly and spread like crazy. But all this low-lying stuff, I'm not quite sure, what we do next or how to do that. That'll have to be something that we really talk about at the subcommittee level. And because there are a few areas where there are a lot of poppies. There are a few tidy tips coming up. They're getting lost in the weeds. I was going to go out and kind of hand weed around the few that I saw. And there's a lot of lupin coming up in one area. But mostly it's just this low level stuff now.
I think just practically thinking, probably you need to let it grow and then weed whack around what you can weed whack. Or you mow everything with the thumb.
Yeah,
There is nothing
yeah,
else you
yeah,
can do.
yeah.
May I interject something here?
Please.
And that is that Edgewood is currently trying to figure out what to do about the low annual grasses that you can't weed whack. You can't, what can we do to kill them? And we haven't figured it out yet, but we're working on it.
Yeah, good. So you'll keep us in that loop.
I will keep you
Thank you.
informed of anything we find.
And it's not just low grasses, it's low broadleaf stuff.
Yeah, well, the weeders, my weeding crew can get the herbaceous plants. It's the little grasses that are driving us nuts.
Okay, so that's basically all on Springdown.
Oh, I have one question. Have they cleaned out the covert of the field?
Yes.
How many, so you said they've done 2 days, they're coming next week to do 2 more days. How many more days do you have?
We have 8 total in the year. So what we scheduled on the calendar we gave them was, a once a month mowing, starting, when they could, and then going through May, and then another mowing in the summer when things have all gone to plant after the wildflowers have gone to seed, the mow again, and fire reasons. But and we have good years and bad years. We have years where it looks fabulous over there, and years where it doesn't.
I have one question about Springdown. It probably fits then into the budget. You might remember we have been talking for years that we would like to have a camera there trained at the pond so people can stream, and maybe we can just put money into the budget for that and see if we get the money, and then we can drive it.
I believe that was approved about 3 years ago.
Yes,
It
but
got
nothing has
approved and
happened.
it didn't happen, but the hangup had to do with how to make it, how to utilize it. Doesn't mean to put a camera in the tree if you don't get the feed from it. And we hooked Howard up with the guy from Jasper Ridge who does your webcams, and yeah, so it was.
I think Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
But the reason why I'm bringing it up, I think, if we drive it,
Mhm.
then maybe we can make it happen, rather than hoping year after year that it will happen
No,
by
there,
itself.
What
in the
will we,
town.
what will we do differently than we did
If
before?
we
We
have
put
a
in the
budget-
budget, it gets approved, that's already happened.
Then we
How-
talk to somebody who can install it,
We, the royal we.
well, a subcommittee. We can, we just drive the thing and we find a contractor and get a bid and send the bid to the town. If the town says yes, and then the contractor is being hired. I think unless that work is being done, it's not going to happen.
Right.
That's
The
all I'm
thing that,
saying.
the wall we run into with things like that, that's happened in other areas is the town has legal restrictions on which contractors it can hire.
Right.
And so we can't just go find sort of the guy
Okay,
we like to
okay,
do it. They're
Then what we
always,
can, okay, then what we can do is solve the technical issue and have a piece of paper. That's what needs to be ordered, and then they can get three contractors.
right, right.
Okay, that's a good point.
the other end is also a problem too, in terms of the streaming aspect. Who's gonna set that up? Who's gonna monitor it? And then there's privacy issues. I remember Howard asked me when we talked about this a while ago about what happens if people walk along the trail and they're videotaped? Is that a privacy issue? So
You can
there's,
probably train the camera. Because we want the water.
that's
not
what
the
I,
trail.
yeah.
And we might have to have a sign where it says, keep your dogs on leash, notice video camera
Video, yeah.
on,
I'm sure
on
that
the
can be
pond.
resolved.
Yeah.
But it would be just so nice, and it would be a real kudos to the town.
the sign can
have
say,
that camera.
pull up your hoodie, you will be photographed. Right, or smile.
Which one am I?
So then do we have a couple people that want to create a subcommittee to work on that?
Yeah, I can drive it, but I have no knowledge of video cameras. So, would you want to be on the committee?
I don't know.
Okay. Okay, you too?
No,
No,
I don't know.
okay.
shit about
I'll
Three
participate, but I'm not,
Let's do
yeah,
three of us, and let's try to.
I can't drive it, but I'll.
So Nona, Catherine, and I.
Mhm.
And maybe we can make it happen. Yeah, yeah, and maybe we do that with the assistant town manager. That person's still interested in doing it.
We do, who's the assistant town
The
manager
woman.
now?
She seems to be very, very good. Yeah. But I mean, I don't know if she's the right person, but she would be somebody with Carrie that we would. Carrie is the person. Carrie is good too.
But she's
She
good,
was
but
through-
she's
we were
just
told
communi-
Last year, everything had to go through Carrie. Yep, but yes, yes, we can work with Carrie.
Actually, I think she. Yeah.
Yes, with you, that would be good. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Excellent.
Okay, done. Ms. Brenda.
Okay, anything new at town center?
No, I walked the site again last week just to confirm the bench was moved out of our last few requests, but that's only done, so budget requests will be the same. They have been for the past couple of years, and I think look at our approach and how things are being communicated with Howard.
To actually get
Me
them
formally
done?
released it with him directly, or the committee as a group discussing with him more directly to understand what realistically can happen within the.
Yeah, I mean, we've also had plans on the budget for a number of years that we want to restore, some of the garden plots, and that hasn't been dealt with either. So it should definitely be added to the budget, but we also need to have a mechanism for.
You know, in
But
the past,
unfortunately, that's, our role is advisory and we can make all the plans we want, but, how it runs up against what he can do and what he can't do. And
Which is
We're-
why it would be great
yeah.
to talk to him and understand that better, so that we
I
don't
think
just
he doesn't
recommend the
know.
same thing
Yeah,
year after year.
yeah. Well,
How-
he doesn't know, how many, depends on how many trees fall down and how many creeks overflow and how many lawsuits, we get, and how many this and how many that, and stuff like this kind of fits in around it, yeah.
I think one thing might be useful, he used to come once a year to the meeting and he would communicate.
Oh, excellent idea.
And if we invite him, and then he can give us the spiel and we can communicate.
Except
directly.
now he's the acting town manager and he's in total overload, so is there,
No, he's not.
oh, he's not, huh?
No, he's
Okay.
not.
Okay. No, I didn't say he wasn't loving his job. I said he's got a lot more. He's got his old job, and unless was somebody made acting head of
No,
public
but he
works,
has an
or is he
assistant.
still a head of public works? Okay, so-
It's worth a try. It might not happen. in the
Oh, and
next
he's
2 months.
willing to do it.
Yeah.
And the only reason, I mean, we're doing that pretty routinely, and then COVID happened. That's the only
Right,
reason it
COVID
stopped.
happened and we haven't seen him.
Yes. Well, we haven't invited him.
Yeah, so let's invite him.
Remember, this is the second meeting we've had.
We're on top of everything.
Okay.
So I'll put that down as an actionable item for
To
the
invite-
minutes to invite Howard to a future
Yes,
meeting
after
for
the-
discussion.
For a exchange of work to be done. Work that can be done. Work that wants. Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing on Triangle Park. But I mean, you can leave that off the agenda going forward, because there's so little likely to be done, and if there is something, I'll tell you to put it back on.
And Rusati Field and Dorothy Ford Open Space has, I don't think we've had a site visit recently. You go by.
That needs to be done now. As of, typically of, once a week.
But no update.
Yeah. Yeah, no, things are going as planned.
It's winter, I mean, or, well,
Weed season.
it's one week into spring, but it's, yeah.
What I did notice that they must have taken several trees, the fir
Redwood.
trees down at the parking lot there, the redwoods,
Redwood.
which is interesting. In terms of priorities, when there are leaning eucalyptus and other streets, but anyway.
Have been on the-
Yeah, they were on.
That
our-
was a
they came
couple
down
years
some
ago.
while ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they took those down. And then, I don't know, I was curious, there's a lot of dirt that's being dropped in the parking lot. Is that something the town does, or is that something somebody illegally does? Okay, okay, okay.
From all the mudslides.
That's what they're doing. They put it down. Okay, thank you. I was just worried that, like, with, like it happened with the mulch.
This has been done before. It's nothing new. There was more volume this year.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and so let's move on to budget requests for,
We haven't done number 3 yet. Discuss feedback for proposed Woodside Fire.
We're on 5B.
we're on B.
What am I
5B.
doing? I'm sorry. I'm showing my agenda. It's so.
So the last page has, I couldn't find a budget from last year. So I took the one that we had put together from the year before, 21, 22, and then I proposed, I just carried the numbers straight over. So if anybody wants to, we should go through these things. And I think we still want to have a lecture event. That's still something that we keep, it's been a while. But that's something, does 800 sound reasonable? Seems reasonable.
Yep.
Yeah, I checked with. Yeah, we're good. Okay.
Yeah, it's really hard.
Really?
It's really hard. You gotta hold this.
Yeah, do you?
If I do this. No, it's,
Sorry about
it's
that.
because sitting at home, attending meetings, it's so frustrating. Everybody. You can't hear anything, not, you can only hear half, so it doesn't make sense. So you. Yeah. Right.
There was no update.
There was nothing.
There's no update.
I walked this. a week, and there's nothing that needs to be done right at this point. Let it soak into the ground.
So let it soak into the ground, let the
Into the
water soak
ground?
into the ground.
She's talking about development, and I think this development
The
stuff is
development
outside
is
of
outside of
anything,
us.
anything
yeah.
that we can do.
That will have to happen before there's any development. And it will cost a lot of money, and it is not something that the Conservation Committee will be able to do. But it will be required if someone ever does propose development in the site.
So far, we've protected it by trying to keep things in as natural a state as we can, assuming that the critters that are there. But once you get into development, it's a whole new ballgame. And the committee will have the opportunity to comment on any plans that come in. And well, it's a good question to ask Mary, actually. Mary?
Mary,
There
Yes.
was all along, in the last year and a half, that this 2 years now, that the housing element process has been going along. And we have as individuals, have certainly, tried to throw our bodies in front of the train in terms of conservation issues and habitat issues. All the comments that we made along the way, trying to influence that process. Is there a need for us to make those comments again? Chrissy's implying that the new council doesn't know what we said before and needs to hear it again to take it into account. Do you think that's accurate? Should all the committees be resubmitting? And because you've read. Yes. Yeah. No, but it's been in previous, I don't think it's I don't think it's realistic for us to sort of do something over and over and over and over. Partly because I think it's wise to give your input when it's most valuable, most necessary, and that simple repetition doesn't usually accomplish much.
It is in PV forum. You can go.
I think we discussed that very same thing at length last month. And I believe what was the consensus, one, the letter was very well known, and two, the letter was I think you were saying that it was a snapshot of the time, and the time has passed. It's a year later. So to write that same letter again would be, I believe you said that, out of context. That's what we discussed last month. I remember it very clearly. So we're
I'm
back.
s- I'm certain we didn't write a letter just to post it on the forum.
No,
We
went-
wrote it, we
yeah,
submitted it, and
we
a
sent it
copy
to the
went in,
council.
and a copy went into
Yeah.
the forum just because there was so much general discussion about all this that
Right.
we wanted to
Yeah.
contribute to. But I mean, I think, we're at the point where these votes are going to be taken tomorrow. And what you're talking about is the details of putting together the package and
Get a copy of the letter.
Well, we don't know either. I mean,
I don't know.
So it looks like under the housing element update, there's a section that has public comment. Have you looked through that? I mean, certainly that's something you can do, but
That's where it is.
that's where it should be.
Okay, so. Can we move on to budget? Okay. So, still planning on a lecture event. Room pool refreshments. We've had $150 in the budget for ever, and I'm not sure we've ever spent any money except for maybe on bottled water, so, which I don't think we should do. So, I don't know.
Put it down
Maybe
to 100.
We can leave it at
I mean,
100.
we may decide, we may decide in a future year to do something more exciting. Those ding dongs didn't cost $150.
Those ding dongs were free.
Right. And usually we get it, we've had stuff
Yeah.
largely free because people have bought it themselves and donated it. Yeah. But it doesn't hurt to have it in the budget.
Okay, let's skip the table handouts because I think it makes sense to do that with the brochure. The Monarch Butterfly Milkweed Project. I think we probably need to bump that up a little bit, except for I don't know where there is the proposal to,
We don't actually have a project at this point. So,
okay, so we can just
yeah.
strike that out.
I thought there was an email and I actually.
There is,
responded to it.
I
Can
don't
I
want
take a
to
look?
jump across and talk about this. I
Okay,
think it'll
okay.
confuse the way the
Okay.
minutes are going and make it harder to take the minutes.
Yeah,
But let's just say let's defer that until we talk about it and then we can come back and amend. That would be easier for me than switching to a whole other thing, I think.
Okay,
Why don't we say leave it in there for now? We'll change it if we want.
okay,
Yeah.
good.
Last fall, when we were planting wildflower seeds and weeding, I put out a lot of melody seeds down by the, it's not a creek, but that drainage that I'm, it would be a good area, but I don't know whether it's germinated yet. It was fresh seed from last
Okay.
summer.
Excellent.
And they usually fairly late in germinating.
That's, yeah. that's
We've
right.
planted in that area several times with not a whole lot of luck. The area that's done the best is right outside the town center offices
Sure
there.
has.
You know, and most of those were planted by the birds.
So we're saying the meeting would come to them?
Actually,
we were
those
talking
were
about
planted by
monarch.
grassroots ecology.
Yeah, but those didn't come up.
Right.
I remember we had two big flats, many plants, and they went in at the right time of the year, and most of them just flourished.
Okay, table handouts, so that would just be reprinting things like the rodenticide brochures and all of the other brochures. With the exception of the town center native plant garden brochure, which is a separate item. I think, weren't we in the process of reprinting that, or am I misremembering that?
We have revised it once and we have some, but if you need more, then you need the budget to print them.
Okay, so we'll leave that in.
So, I'm sorry, table handouts then, there's the backyard habitat brochure, which we're leaving in at 400. And table handouts, you went back up to that. Are we in fact doing much paper handouts now, or are we doing?
Well, so we
Online
always
stuff,
d-
or-
So, at the wildfire prevention, and Earth Day things, we always have paper things
And
that
the
people
town
can
printed.
take and.
Right.
Won't be there?
And are we in fact paying, or have we paid for those things, or have we given something to Carrie and she makes us 100 copies and then we have it?
No, we have to pay for it. She doesn't have money for doing it.
Ha-
We printed them for the fire. sale.
Right. Because I thought a lot, did she print it and then take it out of our budget? She just did it. Because
Well,
they do.
let's keep it in the budget. It can't hurt.
Right,
Yeah.
right. It's good to have money for
Yeah.
that kind of thing. if we
Right.
want. There's the other thing that we've been batting around a little bit is to revitalize the backyard habitat thing. So we may want to do another
Right.
brochure. Okay. So just 200 seems, but we'll just leave that. That seems reasonable. Native plants, seedlings and seed. I'm not sure what this was pertained to. I can't recall exactly.
It's for the times when we want to do some planting.
But we can just be a placeholder. That's fine. $800 goes really fast.
What did I have left over from last year? I've got the two kinds of lupin and some tidy tips because Howard got a couple of big bags. So
That's a
we
different
use-
budget.
no. I mean, I'm saying we have
You
some
have that. so
we
don't
can
need
use,
to
and
buy
I've kept them and carefully protected them. And they should be good to go for a number of years.
When we were there in fall, you gave me a big bottle of the small variety of the lupin. And planted some, mostly Teresa and I did weeding, the low growing broadleaves. But, there is, you could see half of the spring down and there'd still be some left.
And
Right.
sometimes the seeds come up 3 years later. I wouldn't give up.
But maybe particularly, they'll come up 10 years later if there
Right.
wasn't enough precipitation.
Okay, does anybody else have any other budget thing?
Right, so you were gonna take off the 3,600 for the frog pond,
Yeah,
get
that goes
scratched
into
off.
public works.
But we could,
That other seed, that 750 seed, that shouldn't be there.
That's part of the,
Right, I know, but
likely budget.
yeah,
what we should add is the camera.
Yes.
And I have no idea, Nona might have an idea in terms of money, what it costs to have a camera there, da, 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 da.
that was never in our budget.
Yeah,
It
but it
was in
can't
one of
hurt
these.
to put it in. They can cross it out.
I have 2 video cameras.
Okay.
for wildlife.
So then maybe if we
But,
say
but the point is,
$400,
it's not, if you're gonna buy the camera, you gotta buy the stuff that makes it work.
right.
So it
Exactly,
can't be
and that's where the
$200.
money
It's
is.
gotta be,
So if we're taking out 3,600 for the frog pond, maybe we can put in 950.
that was just an error. that
Ah,
was there.
okay.
It's not something that was
Uh,
there. We're taking.
You
it
know,
out. It's just-
let's put a significant amount in. Howard will look at it and he will tell us if it's too much or if he doesn't want it in. But if we don't put it in, we don't even have a basis to discuss it. And if we have a subcommittee, we need money for it. Otherwise, we're wasting our time.
The camera is cheap.
But there is more to it.
Camera is cheap, that is what comes after the.
That's the, yeah. So you have to take the food, you know.
Right.
All that other stuff.
Yes,
I'd
yes,
like
yes, yes, yes.
Let's do
yeah, I'd put
800. 800. Here is the consensus.
If it's less, it's less.
Yeah.
But it also raises the other thing that's not on here, is the plans for town center. So same thing, they haven't been in our budget. They've been in the same way that Yogi is putting together this list of things to give to Howard to include in his public work budget. Those things, there should be a little town center line with that.
What the, there's a town center. Those were the 2 things that we wanted.
Right, but once again, though, those have not been in our budget. They've been in our action, so that this is, so then it's just confusing. These are all listed here as if they're in our budget. So we're now into territory that's not our budget. Is that what you're saying? All of those things from there on down?
Except the camera 800, which is in our budget. It's a new item.
Good, excellent.
Sorry to interrupt, but could you backtrack for just a minute, just to answer the question? So I downloaded the public comments for the housing element, the 435-page document, and the Conservation Committee letter is on page 266. Okay. Housing element.
Okay, unless there's any other things, we'll bring a revised budget for approval.
When does this have to get submitted, Catherine?
I have no idea.
Our
I-
piece of
I
it,
thought it was like April 15th or something.
Yeah.
It has to be to Howard. So we can't bring it to next meeting. It has to go to him before.
The stuff for his budget.
the stuff for his budget does ideally goes, yeah, by now, because he has this long step of estimating. And then he has to put into his budget, and I don't know when their budget submission is,
Why
but
don't
it's soon.
why don't we approve right now the budget, because we have just done the numbers, and then you can send it to Howard in the next week, and then it's a new point, right, because he will have it.
Right. And it'll be broken out what goes in our budget.
Only our budget. That's what I'm saying. We can only agree today on our budget.
Right.
Which is everything we have, plus the 800 out, you know, and the 3,600 and 750 are crossed out.
But that budget submission doesn't go to Howard as Public Works. That's a budget submission goes to Howard as the town manager
Exactly,
to be given to the council.
exactly.
And the other stuff goes to Howard as Public Works, as, you know, estimate, and he has to get it in his budget soon, or it doesn't make his budget. So if we get to him to let, you know, when he doesn't have time to do the estimations, then it just doesn't get there. It's just lost.
So,
I'll
so
follow
where
up.
he will get his list of stuff. to
Yeah.
add to his budget. We just need to make sure that we have covered everything that we.
Right. Right.
that- I'm sorry, yeah. Yeah,
Right, and category, yeah, and he does it by categories, by town, you know, by town center, by
Right.
Frog Pond, by Springtown. He doesn't do it by seeds for wherever they are. He does it by, you know, the location.
correct,
Yeah.
yeah. So this list of things that we talked about, MIG, seed, the fencing, and some plants goes into his budget. He will get that before the end of this week for public work.
He's already in copy, and when you got it, he was in copy, because that's how he worked it in the previous year.
Yeah.
That he then provides feedback, and then we can get back to him and say it's fine.
So then back to my question, when does our budget for conservation, which includes the lecture event, the broom pool refreshments, the table handouts, the monarch butterfly milkweed project, native plant seeding, town center native plant garden brochure, backyard habitat brochure, and camera, when does
I
that?
just said that. I just did the number. If I did it right, it's $4,450. So I make a motion that we approve that this is our budget for the coming fiscal year. Do I hear a second? Second. Then we have to vote. Sorry, second.
Yes, I'm,
Say all in favor.
all in favor. Thank you.
Yeah.
Aye.
All in favor,
Motion carries.
motion carries. All right.
Catherine will submit this budget to the town management in the next,
By the end of the week. she
by the
said.
end of the week. That's the conservation budget. Okay. And what do you need? No,
It's gonna be one, but half of it, the money goes into Howard's budget.
not of the 4,450.
No. So,
May I summarize it? So we have just agreed on the 4,450 conservation budget. Then there are things on this like the Frog Pond, MIG, Seed, Public Works, request for public, let me finish please. Works, town center fencing, mowing. That are items, budget items that belong to the town's budget. And we need to give input on the numbers so Howard can add it to his budget.
We shouldn't be calling it budget. It's a mistake to call it budget. They are our requests for public works action items for the next fiscal year. And Howard estimates them. And then he puts them in his budget or he doesn't, depending
Correct.
on how he feels about it. So it's a mistake for us to be, we're talking about it under the title of budget. Yeah. Good.
oh, thank you. Yeah, Rita.
Thank you. I have an odd question. Thank you for taking my question. Now, for all the repairs that has to be done on, I'm not sure if it comes from Public Works or from your group as a budget or, money item But there are a lot of these little streams that have broken away, something that used to be like 2 feet or now like 4 feet. And they're broken down, or trees that have been removed, and there's just stumps in those areas or disturbed dirt. Now, is that something that would come out of the Public Works budget, or would
Yeah.
that be something that would be requested from this particular group?
No, that's Public Works.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Committee and Town Cooperation. We had the broom pull on Sunday, which was a spectacular day. We had a great turnout. I don't know, there's probably 25 people showed up.
Oh, more than that,
More than that.
40, I'd say.
It was great. Got a lot of broom by the Willowbrook by the creek and along Los Trancos, the backside of the ranch, and between the place along Saddleback, between along Alpine and Saddleback, for the most part. There's a few other things, but I have a list of things to make it better for next year. But but I'm really happy with what we got done and the way it went by and large. As far as Public Works, that's a placeholder. I don't have anything specific from Howard this time. And then there was a proposal to discuss this Woodside Fire Protection District Ordinance. And I think what we need to do is we need to form a subcommittee of, and I know that Sarah Gilbert from the ranch wants to participate. And it's making sure that we understand, that the fire department understands what happens when you remove stuff. And that it's basically that it's an ongoing process, that there are things that broom comes up after things get removed. So it needs to be sort of a planned multi-year process. So I think the fire department is still taking feedback on this ordinance. So I think we should probably have a small subcommittee of people that would like to participate and go through this and work with the fire department. Now, I don't know if it makes sense to combine it with one of the other committees, have an interdisciplinary. But I don't know. You're the fire representative, Nona. Maybe you have some thoughts on that.
Well, as the liaison to the that could be, this committee comes up with some suggestions and I relay those to wildfire preparedness, to Woodside Fire. Or we could have like a joint meeting with wildfire preparedness. I mean, that would be an interesting thing to consider.
Well, that's actually interesting because it brings up the question. So when we look at this and we cooperate and we bring it to the wildfire folks and then they give it to the town, but there is no reciprocity. So they come up with something which has to do with plants, but they are not running it to us. And we certainly are not taking their stuff and then taking it to the town. So this cannot be a one-sided thing. Did you understand my?
I understand what you mean, but it sounds like you're saying I'm not doing my job.
No.
No, and if I'm not, I need to know that.
No, that's not at all what I'm implying. No, that's not what I'm implying at all. Sorry if that came across.
Well, so just to backtrack a little bit, a few months ago, I made a presentation on behalf of conservation to wildfire preparedness, and I ran through it with this committee before I did that. And so the idea of that was that they would incorporate our comments in their meeting with Don. And that seems like a pretty direct conduit then.
Did they?
Yeah.
Oh, then
I
it's
mean-
good. If that works. If that's work,
you
that's
know,
fine
what-
then.
When it works best is when Woodside Fire attends the wildfire protection. And they try to, they don't always, but usually there's someone.
So that seems that it works
Yeah.
beautifully.
And maybe I'm not bringing enough back to the community. How that,
Yeah, I wasn't aware of it at all. Yeah.
usually everyone sort of. can do.
So wouldn't it be most efficient to form a small subcommittee? The work's essentially already been done, you know, the work that we did on the habitat,
Yeah.
incorporating habitat and all of that, the little, marvelous brochure thing that
Right.
that you
Right,
guys had
Megan.
put together with
Right,
Megan
I
and,
walked them through that in my
Right, right.
presentation. Megan,
So if
Yeah.
there's currently this ordinance is being discussed, until, do we know what the closure date for commentary is or anything? Anybody know that? Because we should know that. But it's
It
probably.
was supposed to be the last meeting, but apparently,
No, that was just the first reading.
oh,
That's-
oh,
That's
okay,
what
okay.
Lindner was saying to me.
Well, if they've got something done and they're reading it, then it's just commentary on what they've got. It's not, they're not soliciting suggestions for what to incorporate. Right, same thing. There's steps where they want comments from us because they'll incorporate it. And there's steps where really they've got it essentially done and they hear comments, but they're moving it along. And do you know what stage we're at?
No, I believe, if I understood it correctly, the last meeting, which was the same day we had our meeting, and I spoke, it's a week later, I was told that was the time, and I thought he called it a reading, but he also said that was the time for public comments, input. And and there will be another meeting for input. So we need to go to that meeting and give our input.
Or just gather up what we've already done, the stuff we've already done, rather than recreating the
Yeah.
wheel.
So I think
But
we,
the content's not going to change much. Gather that up and have someone go to their next meeting ideally,
yeah, I think that makes sense.
or at least
Yeah.
submit this.
So the public comment, I think that was actually the second reading. of the
Second
ordinance,
reading,
the
okay.
second reading. I think that we actually had the first draft of it at the time, but there was a second draft. And a number of people did comment. The town commented, Midpen commented, San Mateo County Parks. And actually I commented, so on behalf of what I had already presented. So we have been engaged in the process, but I think I'm not looping you all in.
Well, if they're already at second reading, then we're sort of past doing something organized as a committee to feed back to them, right? Hasn't the train left the station?
I actually don't think so. I think there was quite a lot of stuff. I don't know the details. Again, that meeting was the same night we were meeting.
Yeah.
So,
Because, so for example, I have a hillside property and I am concerned with what they are thinking with these 200 feet perimeter. Perimeter means on every side.
your letter was in there too. In the
Yeah,
public
yeah.
comment.
But we were not there and so I have no idea. Have they read it and have they said interesting or have they said no? How do we know?
We go to the minutes.
So we go to the minutes. Okay, okay.
And what meeting was it that was at the same time? Was it the fire department? Was the
We-
board-
The board of the Fire Protection District. Right?
Okay.
Because one of the things that's confusing, and Mary, that really someone should make a chart. There's the Fire Protection District. There's Don, there's Denise, who's now not Fire District. She's in, there's Fire Safe San Mateo. There's, SERP. There's what used to be SERP, but now it's called something else. It's like, it would be really nice to have some sort of a flow chart so we know how these, is this one under this one or is this one independent over here? there's a whole lot of players in this game and it's very confusing. Even, I've tried to figure it out and I can't quite figure it out.
I could make you a flow chart.
Okay.
I
great. Can you
know.
do that?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, that would
It's
be
not-
good.
that's
I
not
think it would be
hard.
good for the
Yeah.
whole committee
Yeah.
to see that.
I
Yeah.
think it would also be good for everyone to go to the wildfire preparedness fair.
Yes.
Right.
So you have a table.
For our next meeting, it's the 22nd,
That's
right? So
And
we need to have
There's
that.
some really good things.
We have a table. We voted previously that we will have a table. I
What-
don't see it on here,
what-
but we should talk about that.
I have one question still to that topic. Now, didn't we last meeting say we would invite Dawn again? Did we? And why is he not here?
Because I did not ask them. Yeah.
Oh,
I
I
I
think
got that
this
one.
is, this is urgent.
do you, Nona, do you know if, is their board meeting always the same? Tuesday? I don't know. Okay.
Put up the agenda from the February 28th meeting, it was the first reading of that ordinance. That's what I understood. It wasn't the board
Maybe in the
meeting.
First reading, but it had already been revised.
Yeah,
by
that's what
that
I
time.
heard too.
The version that was posted for that agenda already had red text on it, that was not on the version that we had received.
Nona, while we're at the topic, could you just briefly say what was the pushback from the town?
It's, it's many pages.
Oh,
It was,
okay.
it was a joint letter from Woodside, Coachella Valley, Woodstock. So it's signed by all of those. entities.
And that could be found, that if I want to see this document,
It's in the minutes, right? Or it's
It
somehow in
actually-
an agenda package somewhere, most likely. I talked to Jeremy about this because it was not in the packet that went out to the meeting. And he didn't know why, because he thought it was received in time. So I think it was an oversight. But it,
could Jeremy send us that letter, email us? that? I don't know if he's still with us, not there
I mean,
anymore.
it's-
I
it's
lose
online.
track, you know.
those are all.
Yeah, but where is it? I mean,
Megan, did you pull up
You
the
have it?
minutes to
They
that
don't exist yet.
fire meeting?
They're not available yet.
I thought you had.
I really would like to read it because we have, valuable input.
That's right, yeah.
Oh. Interesting.
It would be nice to see it.
It would be
whatever
nice to see it. Well, then we won't be either. Oh. You know what, so why
so
don't
can
we
we
have
go-
a little subcommittee?
Can we
Let's
go back to the issue on the agenda, which is, I think maybe where you were just starting to go, Mary Ann, that what are we as a committee? This is what I asked 2 meetings ago.
Right.
When this just popped out of nowhere and showed up as an attachment on our agenda. And I didn't personally have any background or understanding of how it came to be there or what the expectation was from the committee. So I personally have been looking for that aspect. And I think what I'm hearing tonight is we're considering putting together a subcommittee to develop the conservation understanding of what's being proposed and our response to that or our suggestions. Is that what I was hearing?
Yes. Yes. And maybe, Nona, you and I could just do that. I don't know how many people,
Well, didn't we 5 minutes ago do this? Didn't we say Mary and Nona and
that is a
Catherine?
different. committee.
That was a
the
different
camera
subcommittee.
committee.
Oh. Okay, because you were the guys that worked on the habitat. thing.
Yeah, we worked
Yeah.
on the
That's why I
habitat.
wanted to get back to what was
Megan,
on the
yeah, I think Megan
agenda.
was on the habitat. It was the three of
It was
us.
the three of us.
So why don't we, the three of us, again,
Okay.
and reconvene? Because I think, and I'll be happy to go to the website, at the website part and
So
try to.
For the minutes, can you just clarify what you just said? I just want to make sure. 'cause
Oh.
we bounced all over. So did we now say
There's a subcommittee?
it's Megan, Nona, Mary Ann,
Right.
and Judy?
No,
or no?
no, it's just the
Okay.
three of-
Thank you.
Okay, and then have we agreed that we are, and that needs to be in the minutes, that Dawn is being invited to the next meeting, or
already
should we
down in the
leave one?
minutes.
Okay, okay. Because talking directly would help tremendously.
Well, and
Would
she
help
had,
you,
she had in fact invited him. It was just that we had this,
Right, but
he
that's
was
a
gonna
month ago.
come and we had the double thing, so it's not like it just totally slipped.
Yeah. Okay. But this is really important. This ordinance is really important. And we need to get our
So
feedback.
before we ask Christie's question, I just, so this subcommittee is gonna come up with a way to communicate what we want to the fire department is.
We
that's
are,
basically
number
this.
one, we're going to find out the status quo and what is in that letter and, you know,
The calendar.
and what's the calendar and what
Yeah.
are the meetings coming up and then we're also collecting what we have because we have everything and then decide what we want to throw over the fence and how to throw it over the fence.
So are you gonna bring that back to the committee next month, or do you?
Should, if there's time, I mean bureaucratically.
We'll
there
have to
should,
find
if there's
out.
Time, if
There
there's a
might not
hard,
be
if
time.
there's a hard
So that
deadline
would be
beforehand,
The
Then-
plan?
right? So then let me make a motion if that we form this subcommittee. If there's an important deadline before our next meeting, that we authorize the subcommittee of Mary Ann, Nona, and Megan to put together a package and deliver it in the name of the Conservation Committee to the Fire Protection District.
I have a question on process, which
Wait,
is,
that was a motion.
I'll second it.
Oh, yeah. All approved?
Right.
And then I had a question.
But no one has a question after it.
it's mainly a question about process. If the town has already commented on it and we're advisory to the town, do we talk directly to the fire protection district or do we advise the town on the town?
Maybe we have to leave that an open question today.
Let's ask Mary.
Mary is not happy with the letter, so she.
No,
would-
but we're not talking about that letter. We're talking about the process of what your subcommittee is going to put together and do, which is not that letter.
That's a good question. Mary, what do you think? Okay,
I think the question is, does the town respond to the fire protection district? And if so, do we then advise the town how the conservation committee sees it? Or do we respond directly to the fire protection district? Or the board?
right. That's correct.
So then let me amend that last motion then, which is not quite Brown Act proper because I'm amending it after we approved it rather than as we're going through. But we said that the subcommittee would put something together and bring it back to this committee. And if time were of the essence and they didn't have time to do that, they would send it directly to Don. And so instead of saying they would send it directly to Don, and say they would put it together as a proposal and send it to the council, recommending that the council send it on to the Fire Protection District and that we copy that letter to the council to Don.
That sounds good.
Everybody okay with that? Everybody okay with that amendment?
Everybody okay? All in favor? Perfect, good. Okay, Christie, did you have a quick question?
No. No, 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 no.
So we did talk about that briefly when, and with respect to the eucalyptus trees, it's really not, we can't add anything to it. Stanford is already moving on those eucalyptus trees. And the other stuff is public works, I think. So
That's, none of
It's-
that's
we
within
can't do
Portola
anything
Valley.
about
We
it.
are, we're
Yeah.
just
And it's
Portola
not
Valley.
conservation
it's not,
either.
yeah.
Just Ladera.
The town does, but this committee doesn't. This committee just recommends to the council. And yeah.
Thank you. Right, could have been fun.
Creative thought.
Okay, I think, are there any updates from the open space committee?
Open space has not met. The next meeting will be the first week in May.
Okay, all right. And the wildfire preparedness committee, which we, I think, I didn't elucidate it, but at least the fair is gonna be the primary thing for that. So, do we? I guess we need to have a small subcommittee of people to figure out what we want to do for the fair, and that we need to do that now because the fair is before our next meeting. So we got another subcommittee. I'm happy to do
Just
that.
in general, when we have a table, everybody,
know
everybody
everybody-
on the committee
have a
signs up
subcommittee.
for, we don't set up
Yeah.
a whole, just everybody agrees to,
We just need to find the banner.
who, you know, so the first question is who's, you know, who's around that day and can help. Dividing into the morning. It's only a couple of hours. It's not
The
like Earth Day
22nd.
where you have a longer thing, right? Isn't it only, it's only 3 hours?
It's 4, I think it's 10 to 2. Okay.
And it's you.
So
I plan to participate and I can do those for set up, take down, whatever part needed.
well, I'll be there too. Yeah.
I'll be there, but I have to share with people.
Sure. But you can bring your glass mason jars?
I bring the jar. Who has the banner?
Banner with a big oak tree on it. Remember that was lost and then was found in Marge's garage and then we got it out for the last thing?
And
So
I-
either way.
I had it, but I couldn't stay. And so whoever has cleaned up from the one that I had to leave early. I can't remember. So it's with the Backyard Habitat Award.
I
So,
have the backyard habitat. Post.
okay.
I don't think I have the banner.
Yeah,
All right, let's-
we did
let's-
break down and basically everything was gone except the plan.
I thought you got the name.
No, absolutely not. Yes. There was no banner.
Remember, we took it off the table, rolled it up as we were putting things down. I didn't take it.
I'll check again. but
I'll
I
check
don't-
again.
Yeah,
Yeah, 'cause we finally found it.
okay.
I lost it again.
Anything else on the there? I think we're good.
Well, what are we gonna have at the table? This is the
The
whole
usual,
point. Well, but the whole point is it's the fire prevention fair. So I thought we were gonna emphasize this habitat stuff and have the, I mean, the wildflower things in the jars are sort of the little come on for people and they like that, but this isn't the place to have our rodenticide stuff, for example. It's the place to have our,
it's the place to talk about fire plants.
right, and we have those handouts about islands.
Do we still
and
have copies of those?
habitat and,
Still have copies of that, and for the last year, I printed a big one. so that
Mhm.
we could display to do this.
right, and you have
I
all
have
of
that,
that stuff. Okay, so that's what'll be on our table.
Are we going to be sharing our table again? this year? Last time, but it was-
I don't think we
Peter,
shared
can
it.
you
I
be
think we
there?
Set up next to him.
I didn't hear anything.
Can you give Peter the date?
22nd.
Saturday,
Probably, yeah.
so you might take a shift.
So
As
I'll
usual.
take, yeah, I'll take the late shift and help put things down. If I'm here, I'm coming home late the night before from a trip, so.
I'll just be a floater, so I don't want to take anything specific. Where help is needed.
So who else gonna bring flowers? I'll bring some. I can
I'll
bring
bring
flowers.
some, and I can be there
all
for
good.
setup. Yeah, and Megan, can you be there for setup?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
Nona, are you gonna be able to do that really nice display that you did the last time with the test tubes? The tubes and
yeah,
the,
I'll bring that.
that was really.
That was nice.
Really
yeah.
nice, and plant label. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
having
that-
things
that
labeled
really
is
was-
a-
yeah, very effective. So, what works really well is if I know what labels to make ahead of time, otherwise I'll have to read my handwriting.
Open some stuff.
So
And
the
I'll let you
broom
know in
will be
advance what-
will be blooming. Are we going to have it under a plastic cover? I don't think we should take blooming broom to the town center.
Maybe we should just take good stuff that's blooming. You know, often we have
Fire,
the good,
fire,
yeah.
it's fire.
the bad stuff. So we're gonna have the bad stuff, okay?
If the bloom is flowering, it's fine, it's when it's fruiting that you have to.
Okay, so we don't have to worry. Okay.
Good one with some nice.
If it's
flowers
next to
would be
all
good.
the beautiful wildflowers, people will think they should go home and plant it.
Yeah.
Okay. There any updates from Trails and Paths? Oh,
Yes.
sorry, Christie.
Endangered, Mary, you were,
I think if they're rare plants, we won't be able to collect from.
Yeah.
So we,
okay.
okay,
not
so
talking
let's not do that. Yep.
I think the information you're looking for is probably in the EIR. Well, then you go, then you take the name and you ask Google and you get a picture.
You Go to Calscape or something. All
Trails
right.
and paths.
Trails and
Okay,
paths.
So trails and paths, a lot of the time that has been spent on talking about these new maps, et cetera. But this time, Howard did discuss a little bit about mowing. I spoke with him after the meeting, and he has requested that conservation send him an email outlining when various trails should be mowed and when they should not be mowed because of the wildflowers, et cetera. He's trying to plan for the mowing activities. He has to do that ahead of time. So we need to let him know if there are specific trails that need to be deferred for mowing purposes until after the wildflowers have bloomed. I'm not sure which trails are subject to this.
It's the ones on the, we had this issue in the last 2 years on the ranch.
So we need to let him know because he's trying to plan for that. And of course, this year, all bets are off to a certain degree because of the amount of moisture that's there. So it's a two-edged sword because they've been requested to mow earlier, but it's also that things may be blooming longer.
But this is, if I'm looking at the town trails, the only trails that have really wildflowers are the ones on the ranch that go up to Coal Mine Ridge. The other trails, the trails in Westridge have no wildflowers. So this would be an easy task.
I take it up. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And talk to Paul, because I think Paul and Howard have had this conversation in past years. Is that not right?
Paul, are you there?
Is he still there?
No.
Went to
Not.
bed.
Okay, because
That's
I know
true.
we've had this conversation in the past. And I think I think that one of the trails that goes up, I'm blanking on the name. You go up from Portola Road, but where the parking lots are, there at the top of Willowbrook, go up there. There's some,
Greenwich
there's some plants
to Windy Hill or to Coal Mine Ridge.
up to Coleman.
Yeah, that is ranch land.
Oh, those are all
That's the
ranch
one.
land, okay,
That's
yeah.
the one that was the issue. Yeah.
You know, I have to say though, there are a couple of very large patches of thistle that I've been watching grow, especially on Old Spanish at the bottom of the trail.
Huh.
And those would be good to hit early on the thunders.
There's no way, one of the things the point he strongly made is he mows each trail once. So if he mows it early, he doesn't mow it late. And if he mows it late, he cannot mow it early. So it's like, what he's looking for is first mow this one, then mow that one. Then he doesn't need exact dates so much as, is do this one last. And that stuff really needs to be done by hand really, and those if it's, they don't get them.
It was pretty big last year.
You're not talking about right now.
I didn't see, they were just coming up when I looked. And then there is the trail below the sequoias, which doesn't have wildflowers, but has a lot of thistles.
Right, that's the area that had a lot of fire clearance last year,
Yes.
remember? And now it's in the bright sun, and so
Yeah.
all of this nasty stuff is growing up in.
Actually, someone
the-
needs to look at them. But that's really important. Does that one get mowed by the town? Or
No,
is
well, it
Sequoia
starts on
Trail?
Willowbrook and goes up, yeah.
It's a town trail. It's
on
not, it's
Sequoia's-
not open space.
It's
not
on
open space.
Sequoia land,
Yeah.
Sequoia's property. but
That was the big brouhaha. I remember. Yeah.
So, Teresa, it's interesting when we have issues like this, we sort of form working groups or get together some volunteers like we did at Frog Pond, et cetera. And in trails, it seems like they talk about things that should be done and they ask Howard to do them. And it's either Howard does them or they don't get done. Do they do organized volunteer work days of any kind? I mean,
Well-
you go out and work all the time, I know, but.
Well, Howard has a public works budget and it includes all of these activities and they review that each time about what the maintenance, et cetera, are maintenance.
Trail does not go out and touch anything. They have money in the town's budget and hire somebody.
Trails,
have each member of the committee has assigned certain trails that are their responsibility to review, to hike,
Watch,
to watch and to report on.
Right.
And let.
but
the-
not to do
But
any
not
work
to
on or to
clean the
gather groups. and-
thistles like you were mentioning.
Like we get, you know, like we organize the Boy Scouts and work
Yeah.
at Frog Pond, et cetera, or we. Okay.
So Yogi, I wrote that you, that I'm happy to liaise with you and then follow up. With
I'll send the email to you and Catherine copy also. Yeah.
excellent, and then I can make sure.
Judy, could you look at the Sequoia, you live the closest, somebody needs to look at the Sequoia Trail. Because that's an important one to get mowed, possibly very early. I don't know who lives closest. Oh,
Nona
you-
does.
You do, right, Nona,
Oh.
you live really close. Well, that's what we have to say, whatever it is, but because the thistles there will be thick. They were thick last year.
Let's just walk together.
It seems like anything that we expect to have strong weed pressure would be the ones we should tell them. to do
Exactly.
early. Yeah. And then do the flowers up to Coal Mine Ridge at the end.
That makes sense.
Okay, just a quick update on the dog park situation. I think it's on the back burner now because I think everybody recognizes that the open space is not gonna be an acceptable place for dog parks. There's a few other options, including possibly as the development of the Hawthorns property goes forward, or possibly some other options around the, if, for instance, there's some development on by the church down by town center. But I don't think, I think it's gonna, there's really not much more that we can do, and it's gonna be a long-term, it's a long-term project to get a real dog park in town. And I think that the main driver has been a group of dog people that they just want a place to run their dogs. And they'd like a dog park, but they're not committed to, they don't want to deal with the whole administrative aspect of building a dog park. They just want to have, so they're gonna find their, work with the school, see if there's a way that they can share the fields that already exist. So that's, I think, where things are right now on that,
So we are finished from a conservation.
as far as I know.
Pressure's on, they're not going to be asking the council to do anything anytime soon. that you're
Correct.
aware of.
Okay, routine town communications. Kudos, we might do a broom poll kudo.
Yeah, I was actually talking with Catherine. I was not able to put my email out. I got an error message. So the one about, yeah, and
Send it to me. And
so
I'll-
I did. So if
Okay.
you could, maybe you can, I don't know what it is. I don't know what I did.
Well, we're not allowed to do it ourselves anymore, so we
No,
got.
no, we do, we do. Yes, we do, we do. On
I
the
do.
PV forum, yes, we do.
We got a communication from.
But you just did your flowers.
I just did the
town
broom
sent us a
poll.
Communication that we're not supposed to post, we're supposed to send everything to the town, and they'll post it for us, even on TV Forum. Did I read that wrong? For everything.
Some of the things we have don't need fixing. They're already beautiful. Yeah, Like that tip of the month that you've seen.
We
in the
really
forum.
don't.
But you often do send those to Carrie because then
I've
she
started
puts
sending them.
it. We'll
she
just do
puts
it.
it on.
Until somebody stops us. Yeah. So anyway, so I got an error message. So I have this wonderful Coolbert email, but it bounced back. And so Catherine, I sent it to Catherine earlier today. So she'll try, hopefully. And then if you see what I did wrong, then I can do kudos for the next time. And I can do the broom pool. Yeah.
Excellent.
I put one little thing on the forum that sort of said, thank you, and posted a picture of Megan. Your dad sent it to me, so I assume it was okay. I didn't put your name in it. Megan had pulled this thing that was like 15+ feet tall, and John took a picture of it.
Nice.
I don't, my
that's
technical
great.
skills are not very good, so if you saw it, it just got this big black line and things on it, because I don't know how to annotate a photo really, but I thought it was a great picture. Say thank you to the people who'd come out. But an official kudos still needed.
Yeah. Is there some, oh no, we're not doing any specific, we're just doing it general. Okay, yeah. And regarding backyard habitat, I have actually a little story to tell. I talked to one homeowner because they have such a beautiful front yard, if she would be interested, and she was very hesitant. So I said, I feel you're hesitant. And she said, well, I have a lawn in the backyard and I don't want people to know. So that was the end of that. So, you know, working on it.
Okay, well, tip of the month, I think I want to do thistles.
Yes.
Were you gonna do the tip about the oak caterpillars?
That one is, yeah, that's gonna go out in another day or two.
Oh, so
Uh,
that-
So,
But I
that
don't
was a-
have any caterpillars. Who has caterpillars this year?
so this is an idea that came because I guess McClellan posted.
Flanahan's posted
McClanahan
an
posted-
ad basically saying, call us and we'll spray your caterpillars.
Oh,
So we thought we should counter that with, you don't need to spray your caterpillars.
Right, so I did a quick thing and sent it out, which a giant chunk got cut out before I sent it out, so. I have a thing that I'll run by everybody, but I would like to send it out this week.
as an addition.
And as an additional, a
Okay.
tip of the bye week.
Okay.
Does it make sense, Peter? Are we, in the cycle, are we, because of all these rains, is it true that we might have a whole bunch of caterpillars in 4 to 6 weeks? And if so, should we save that to it's when it's more topical?
Few days. One is, it's left over from last year. That it has already mutated and they will come out as soon as the weather gets better now. But that's not the big quantity. There's probably attrition this year because of the inclement weather now for 3 months. And then when it's dry, there's the second peak. And that's the one we worry about. But some years ago, for the committee, I wrote what you just did. The caterpillar should be looked at as a good way to do green pruning.
Right, we've talked about that. The question is,
That's
the
exactly
question
right.
is timing.
The
Yeah.
tree is absolutely denuded. There's no more green leaves even on old trees. And 3-4 weeks later, it's just like totally rejuvenated. It's certainly.
Well, that's the point of this message that was going to go out. The question is, they're talking about doing it now, and if there are no caterpillars now, then it's just going to go.
There aren't any.
And if
there aren't any.
if in 4 to 6 weeks, there's going to be the bloom. I was asking you what's the likely timing for the bloom, and you're saying a couple weeks after it dries out.
Yeah.
So it might make safe
It's
to
too early.
save that one until
Or
we're
early
seeing
June or something.
caterpillars when it's meaningful to people.
I have a question for Mary. So Mary, as the town is so supportive with not having rodenticides and whatever, if we have McClanahan, who is not McClanahan anymore, I think it's another name, who bought them, it's a much bigger company, sending out to Portola Valley residents that they are spraying chemicals. Is that something the town might want to look at? Because that goes completely against what we stand for.
It's spray BT. It's not really before toxin. So it's not really it's not a chemical.
It only affects caterpillars. Bacillus thuringitis.
Okay, and are the caterpillars then poisonous for the birds? No, okay. Then, okay, and I feel better.
It's
Yes.
Mother Nature's
It's
pruning.
Mother Nature. Yes,
it's-
yes.
It's good for the tree.
Yeah, the problem is that people don't like the little caterpillar.
Well, they,
So,
So it has to be emphasized to them
Yeah.
that this is a good thing
Yeah.
rather than a bad. thing.
right, right.
So maybe Dieter can help you write that
Yeah.
thing.
there is a. We ran, and we ran into this recently, where the homeowner did not want the spiders to drop down
Okay, let's
from the
let's keep it
tree.
going. Let's keep going. So I'm sorry, did you say thistles is what you want to put? Was that
Yes,
the
I'll
other-
do thistles
Thistles.
now
Yeah.
or in a week.
Okay.
We'll brush that
Okay,
one out.
and then we'll hold off on caterpillars until.
It also seems to be a bad milk thistle year.
Oh,
Yeah. It's bad.
It's just that.
Okay. So what's in?
mhm.
That's what we've been doing in Springtown for 4 years, Mary. More or
Yes.
less.
Yeah,
Yes.
well,
That's why we were saying earlier, now we don't have all those tall weeds. We got those short weeds.
Right.
In theory.
well, what you really have to do, and as a homeowner, you can easily do that. I do that. The little ones you can pull.
That's a matter of budget. I think that should come from the council. The council, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's a thought.
yeah,
That's
that's a
thought.
really good
Yeah,
thought.
that's a good thought. Yeah, and
And
Howard
we
might
ins-
be open if the town council supports.
If
this.
there's money, I mean, it's a huge chunk of money to mow all the trails in the town. It's big. It's a huge, it's like, what is it, $6,000 a day for Go Native? You know, and there are months on those.
Hey, maybe
trails.
I should start going
Yeah.
out there.
So,
the
yeah, we
6,000
did,
bonus.
they used to just mow, they used to mow Spring Down and Frog Pond once a year, and it's because of us that they're doing this frequent mowing and twice a year now at Frog Pond, so, yeah. Even though the town's so
blooming
short
now?
money. Okay,
We can push, we can definitely push.
What's blooming now?
What is blooming now? I think I just did varieties last month and
the buttercups on my hill, buttercups. are
I know, I was
crazy.
gonna do the wildflowers. That I have
Oh,
one
that's
that has
nice. Yeah.
wildflowers. Yeah.
This is a stupendous year for Western redbud.
Redbud?
This is accidental. Fantastic. No.
Mine didn't get the memo
Buds.
either.
Mine are just starting to.
Depends on the-
Okay, let's keep moving. We'll get, this is. Got 8 minutes. Yeah, okay, Christie, yes.
You should talk to Trails about that.
Yeah.
Trails would be, we have nothing to do. We don't have trails. Yeah,
Yeah,
talk to
that's right.
Trails.
Yeah, definitely.
Do not priorities.
Okay, Judy.
Okay, the thing about milkweeds is, this is on the agenda because I was, sustainability was approached. with some sort, with a milkweed project. And I said, don't you think that would be more appropriate for conservation? Da-da-da-da. And I said, I'll take it to conservation. Well, thinking there was a project and a proposal, but there's not. It certainly wasn't Garden Club. That's, I don't know where that one came from. It was a couple of just individual residents who had talked about, wouldn't it be nice? And by the time it made it through the grapevine to me, it was like, there's a project that needs some support. So I think I'm
Okay,
happy to just
We
cross
can-
this off for now.
okay. Okay,
Can
Uh,
anybody remember the name of the man 3 or 4 years ago when we first started working
He
on that?
does.
Oh, we did. Okay, never mind.
okay. And just the streamline.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So this is something that actually is going to take a little, I'll
It'll
be
take
as
a few
quickly as I
minutes, yeah.
can, but it's an important thing, at least for us to understand. There's a proposal that was generated by the council. There's a subcommittee from the council. That's Craig and Craig Taylor and Sarah Wernikoff to alter the committee structure in various ways. It hasn't been decided yet, but because there was a lot of concern and complaints from residents about how things were about, being able to get in, being able to hear, being able to come, did they have to come? And even more from committees themselves who felt like they were being told what to do too much, or these weird, the quorum requirements changing and the Brown Act putting in these restrictions that meant that if you were, in order to participate as a member of the committee, if you called in, you had to be in a public accessible place and all of that stuff. There's a proposal to revamp the committee structures a little bit and give committees the choice of being the committee as we know it, the town committee as we know it, Brown Act compliance in every little detail necessary. Another category where the committees would be very similar to what they are now, and they would comply with the important parts of the Brown Act, all the transparency, all, your agendas have to be posted, all of that, but they would be free to not have to comply with the niggly stuff, like a wheelchair has to be able to come into my house if in my house I'm participating from there. And then potentially there's a third group that's committees that hardly ever meet, or that wanted to be a little more free form, and they would be maybe even called groups. And the Brown Act committees would be appointed by the council as before. The non-Brown Act committees, which is just a name for it now, would be appointed by a subcommittee of the council. And that little legal twist is sufficient to get you out from under the umbrella of having to be 100% Brown Act compliant. Now, to me, it sounds like legalese, angels dancing on the head of a pin, frankly. But that's what the lawyer says. It can be done. So the main differences would be the things that we'd be appointed by subcommittee rather than the full council. You would still have, and then the membership would be appointed by the subcommittee instead of the full council. And the small groups might even have open membership where anybody who wanted to come and participate could do so. Locations would be Brown Act determined in the first case in person, but not let's just call them Group B. They could be in person or hybrid. The noticing would be, for the second one would be, there'd have to be notice, but if you got it in 2 hours later, it wouldn't be the end of the world, and you wouldn't have to cancel your meeting. The minutes you'd still be expected to take minutes, but they could be not just action item minutes. The agenda setting would be, have your agenda looked at by your liaison, council liaison, not council liaison, and the town manager, which is what happens with the Brown Act committees. You'd still have a council liaison. You'd still have a staff member available as needed. There were some things about issue resolution, and they're basically the same. So the pros of being in number 2 would be that you don't have the complexities of the nitpicking of the Brown Act for the volunteers, and more flexibility for the committees. You could have hybrid meetings, and that's basically it. Having said that, there are a couple committees in town that probably don't have the option of going to level B. And we are one of them. And that's because in the town's original ordinances and things, conservation and trails and paths and bicycle pedestrian safety are all listed there with specific jobs that they do for the town. So they're not just advisory about other things that we decide to take on or they assign us. They've got, and in our case, it's the tree permits. Conservation Committee will do that tree permit. So we may not have this option unless we decided to carve out the trees and have the trees be done by the Conservation Committee A and everything else be done by the other. So the Committee of Committees met once and talked about this, and we were asked to bring it back to our individual committees just to talk about and see what people thought about whether it's a good idea, whether you think it would get us out from under the more onerous parts of the Brown Act. Would we want to do hybrid meetings? And if we did do, this was one of the more interesting questions. If you do a hybrid meeting, there are options. If you're not under the Brown Act, there are options for doing it. For what we had been doing was sort of participation where the people on the Zoom can raise their hands and ask questions and that sort of thing. You could go to a more participatory where people could just be invited into the discussions if you wanted. You could go to a viewing only where it's like CNN, they can watch us. They could, they can submit questions ahead of time that we would answer in the meeting, etc. But there wouldn't be the interruptive stuff from afar. Or you could choose not to have any remote at all. It would be up to the committees. And right now it's not clear whether each individual committee would decide or whether the committees would kind of pool all these ideas and sort of decide on a structure, and then all the non-Brown Act committees would do it that way. So the next step is to take the feedback back to the committees, and then they'll kind of see what they think, and they'll make a recommendation to the council about whether they should consider doing this. So I'm just doing my job and bringing it back to you and seeing if you have any.
I would comment it because I knew about that. We have lived with the Brown Act for the last 40 years and it hasn't hurt us. So I don't really see that the Brown Act or getting out from under the Brown Act is really that important for the Conservation Committee. And what concerns me, if this sounds a little bit like different levels of committees, which then will also mean different levels of importance. And I think we want to be at the top level of importance. And if that means Brown Act, we'll just do the Brown Act and look at hybrid meetings. Paul was on the internet. He left. He wasn't really active. I was doing that last. It's not good. If we're here in person, we look at each other and we're active and we're working. So that's not even something that I particularly think is good for us. If we have some people, some committee members, and if they have to, fine, then they are on Zoom, but they can't vote, and that's okay too. So I would feel much more comfortable to stay with the status quo and see what's going on.
rather than making guesses and taking the easy way out. I see a lot of nodding. You didn't see the nodding.
No, and I also believe that we have to stay at the highest level because of all the current, let's say, activities in the public. I mean, we face it every time we now make an on-site visit. And if we are a subcommittee of a subcommittee, I mean, there's not even a reason to visit any.
They wouldn't be,
building site
yeah, they
or-
wouldn't be I mean, it
No,
wouldn't
but
be a
the
subcommittee. yeah.
impression of team, you know, and telling him not to plant an olive tree, the guy will smile at us and say, yeah.
Well, we talked about this, there was a lot of concern that you would be a second-class citizen. And they were saying that that shouldn't be so because you're still appointed by the subcommittee. And I think some of the ways, one of the things that they may be looking at to do is either putting some committees together or having some committees not even exist anymore because of how unwieldy it is and how much demand there has been on staff by committees and that sort of. So some of it is an attempt to do that. So I said that was my major concern about not being a second-class citizen.
Well,
But-
it's just, we don't know.
Right.
We don't know. And so why would we go into a direction we don't really know? Is there anything written up describing what these structures would be?
Well,
My
it hasn't
brain
been,
started
it
to
hasn't
shut
been
down a
fully
while ago.
decided. There's a graph that got altered in the course of the committee's discussion. So there's nothing that's, I asked for an updated version of it so I could pass it out for this discussion. And that it hasn't been produced yet.
Yeah, that'd be
So,
helpful to review
Yeah,
that.
obviously.
And we can always stay, and then in a year, if it's sort of proven that, you know, whatever the past committee went and it's so great, then we can say we want to do that too. We don't have to be a trailblazer. But just wait and
Yeah.
see.
I mean, my feeling is that we first need to know even if it's a possibility, right? But I mean, if it's not a possibility, then
Well, our input on the idea is, I mean,
Ye-
there's two questions. One, you know, we're a committee. What does this committee of smart people think about the idea? And the other
Sure.
is, does conservation want to do it or not do it?
Right,
And what,
right.
when, how would we want to do it if we did? So right now, we're sort of in the general feedback phase.
I guess my feeling is, I mean, I agree with the sort of impression of a second class citizen that might go along with that, but I worry if we have to do something funky and bring off, you know, pull off the tree stuff as a different thing. I think it becomes more complicated to get rid of the complications of the Brown Act that we've already lived with.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't see any reason to change right now, but I think people should know that there are these discussions and I think that there are some committees that can probably benefit from that kind of structure, but I don't think we can. As of now, maybe there'll be some miraculous.
Imagine that it could actually be more complicated for town staff to have multiple different kinds of committees doing different kinds of structures and.
Well, we'd all be,
Definitely.
I mean, it's sort of a bureaucratic thing. We'd all be doing, we would, if we went to B, we would be doing the very same things we've been doing. We would be advisory in the same way we'd still be doing tip of the month and, you know,
But the town would have to deal with some of our products differently than.
no. It would just be a matter of how how our meetings could get managed primarily. I mean, that was the knife into the.
I guess I heard about this a little bit differently and that it seemed like there is, that the committee structure and the number of committees is kind of onerous on the town staff. And it's not obvious to me that this addresses that, even though I thought this was partly driven by that.
Yeah, I think it was. And I'm not sure it's going to be able to accomplish. I agree with you. So then some of it is, well, you go through the exercise and you discover that. Yeah.
Judy, when were you supposed to have feedback?
Everybody was supposed to talk about it in their committees. this month, but there's not yet a scheduled meeting for the second committee.
Because I'm on board with Megan. For me, it's very difficult. It's kind of, it's whatever time it is, I don't know. And not having something to actually look at and just trying to speculate. What I think maybe is being done is it's difficult to give any coherent suggestions or interpretations or whatever.
So, and they didn't,
So-
as I say, we
And
didn't
so I'm
have,
wondering if there's gonna, if there is going to be something crystallized a little bit about this, and what we're really thinking is very nice to get my teeth into.
well,
it,
and
but
we were at
I
the
don't know,
stage
maybe,
of their
or maybe I'm
rallies.
misspeaking for what you said, Megan, but that's how I heard it.
But step 2 of the process is the committee handbook will get reworked. And I'll come back then with, look at the handbook as it is and make, and make suggestions about what other changes. A lot, it's very old fashioned now. And some, but that's step 2. So right now is just sort of generalities. And then they were going to talk about if they had this second category, exactly what it would it be.
You know,
Right now-
Julie, what would make, it would make sense to me if every committee becomes the second thing, that would make sense to me. But some committees to stay under the Brown Act
Right.
and others to do something to get out from the Brown Act doesn't make the slightest bit of sense to me. Doesn't, I fail to see what the point is.
Okay, so I don't think we need to talk about it any longer. I think, general sense that this committee would probably not be interested currently. That in general, they think it doesn't make sense for some committees to do it and some not. And that an overriding concern would be not to be considered second-class citizens. And maybe that it would add complexity to the thing. Okay, good, thank you. Which,
Great, thank you.
oh, thanks.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Well, send it to Catherine and she'll
Yeah, I can
distribute
send
it to us, yeah.
I know you have. One. Okay, and then the last agenda item is just the plants list, and I think I was supposed to review, do some final PC and maybe add.
Just stuck on the last couple of edits and corrections and checks.
That'll be done.
It's going to be done.
We
Yeah,
approved
we're
it,
really
we
close.
approved it last month,
Yeah.
didn't we?
Yeah, just.
Oh, I
well,
thought we did. I thought we approved it knowing that there was a little niche or two that to be done.
Month before.
No, we said it was almost ready for final approval.
Okay,
That's still the agenda. Okay, well, I believe we have gotten through the entire agenda, and so now this meeting is adjourned.